So next up, we've got Jarden Anderson from Jarden Corporation. Probably one of the biggest companies that you don't know by its name. You know because of the brands that they own and operate. So very excited to welcome Jared to the stage. Join me in welcoming him.
All right, make sure this is working here. All right, good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me. So I want to give you a little bit of an overview of Jarden Corporation, because like was mentioned, we have a lot of different brands that a lot of people sort of know. They probably have a lot of these in your homes, but most people don't know our parent company, which is Jarden. We're actually just going through as well a business combination with Newell Rubbermaid right now to create Newell brands. So, again, these are just sort of a sample of our brands. We'll have 130 of them in the end once the business combination is complete. And essentially what we are is that we're an operating company. We own and operate these various businesses, and they're all different segments, everything from household appliances to writing tools under the Newell businesses, outdoor businesses, skiing, cookware. We have sort of a different variety of different organizations. So a little bit about the structure. So, our Media Ventures group really sits at the intersection of the different business units as a whole. So we sit, all the marketers reside at the individual business units. We have different CMOs. We have hundreds of marketers across the company. And we sit there at the corporate angle, and our goal really is to make sure that we're that layer between all the different marketing activities that the brands are doing across the organization. So the four key areas we work across, the first piece is strategy. So that could be going into and helping us source our agencies for our businesses. It could be identifying investment strategies for the particular business units. Our innovation ventures and investments, which is a big piece I'll be talking about today, which is how do we source new companies for the brands to work with across the organization. Our media services group, which again encompasses all the media activity that we do across the businesses. And then lastly is our corporate-related initiatives, and we don't really promote Jarden that much as an organization, or Newell that much as an organization. Primarily, the main focus there is just to the street. Our focus is really on the businesses you saw on the previous slide. So, this is sort of a complicated slide, but really what the objective here is really figure out, how do we get deal flow? How do we get access to new media companies that are going to be coming into our organization? Because we have, a lot of what we do is very traditional, has been very traditional, and so how do we find the new media startups that we can work with across the board? And it begins over here on the right side with beginning to look at the data. And what I'm going to talk about is really data and how it's being utilized more for helping us find partners. And a lot of, I think, discussion so far has been about how do we use data to more effectively target consumers. So we're looking at it from a partnership perspective. And so we're going with a lot of deal sources, Crunchbase, CB Insights. We're working with the crowdfunding platforms to launch new products, Indiegogo and Kickstarter. We're looking at the sort of the incubators and accelerators like Plug and Play in the Bay Area, which I think is a fascinating concept of basically 200 startups that are permanent residents there. And brands can come in there and sit down with them and work with them one-on-one. It gives us new insight into new businesses, new models. We can learn new about how things are evolving across the board. And then obviously the traditional accelerators. And that leads us into sort of our relationships with the venture capital community and our what we call our corporate venture capital partners. So the whole thing here is that we want to identify from the investment community where are they putting their resources, because we think that will be the next media property, the next Facebook, the next Snapchat, whatever it is. So we start there at the top. We understand where they're investing and what their interests are in. And then down below, we look at also the media company investment units as well. So for example, Comcast has one, Google has one, Time Warner, to understand where the media companies are investing, because these are companies that they've identified as potential disruptors for their own businesses, and we want to make sure that we're there as well early for our businesses. And then to the left then leads us into sort of some of the media companies that we've been testing across the different business units, everything from traditional DSPs to sort of bundled up ad networks, new content partners like Buzzfeed, Snapchat, which was just discussed earlier today, even to partnerships that we've signed with Uber and a bunch of different sort of upcoming companies that are not just media specific as well. So what do we look for when we're going out and sourcing for these companies? It really begins with the 2020 vision laid out to all the different business units. So The corporation will set sort of generally 2020 roadmap for all the different companies to adhere to. We then go into the market and work with our marketing directors and our marketing leaders across the organization to source partners that we know will help us grow and address these growth goals as a whole. Earlier in yesterday's discussion, we talked a little bit about sort of what % of our budget is being utilized for test and learn. 10 to 15% of our budgets are being utilized for this particular area. And so a lot of these partners that you saw on the previous slide are part of that 10 to 15% of our communication budgets. And then, as I mentioned, it starts with the data and leads from incubators and VCs. So what we're looking at, and again, this is not, I'm not advocating here from a purely investment perspective. If we want to talk about investing for equity, that's a whole different conversation. But when we're looking at what media companies we want to work with across the board, our marketers are inundated with I know Dana mentioned this morning, sort of a jungle of partners. And so we have to start to figure out a way that we can differentiate them, because they all come in there saying they have proprietary information, they have this access to this data that nobody else has. They're going to single-handedly make our business successful. So we look at a lot of things. We look at traction. If you're a consumer-based company, we look at how fast are you growing, what sort of traction you're having with your community. We look at the life stage of your business. Are you early in your life stage? Are you a little bit later? We look at your customers. We actually go out and we actually talk to the current customer base of a lot of these media companies to understand how it's working for them and get sort of either an unbiased or a unbiased perspective. We look at the capital structure, and this is not, again, from an investment angle, but we want to understand who's investing in the company. For example, if we find that a media company is doing something and it's a later stage round, we're interested in that. I think we can talk to them further about what their experience has been. The management team that's running the company, what's their monetization strategy, how they plan to make money. Again, for us, it's looking past what they're just offering us from a media perspective. We really truly understand their business to see if it's something that we want to form a partnership with. And that partnership could extend beyond media as well. And can they explain what they do? I mean, that's another really big thing for us is we meet with a lot of companies, media companies, startup companies that tell us what they do, but they're not really good at explaining it. And we walk away from the meeting sort of like, I kind of get it, but I really don't quite understand it. So can you articulate what your offering is? Can we commercialize it? Can we take this offering and spread it across all of our different business units within the organization? That's something that is very important, is making sure that there's operational potential there. We look for set periods of exclusivity early on, not perpetuity. So we're always juggling this. And one of the big challenges we have is, trying to get our marketers to also understand that the companies that we're working with are also trying to run a business, and their business can't be designed solely to appease our brands. So we have the exclusivity to give us, obviously, a reward for coming into the early working with them. But it's not in perpetuity because, again, we want them to grow on their own. And then lastly, the savings and market potential. We want to look to what is the savings potential. A big piece of what we do is acquisitive companies. We're out in the marketplace. Jarden and Newell is buying new companies on a regular basis. And so we're looking at constantly being able to leverage and find savings. So the case study we'll talk about, and again, this goes into the discussion today around how do we identify content, how do we source it, and then how do we distribute it. All the brands are challenged to create and distribute content both on a US and global scale across all of our different units. We wanted to create more owned and earned media opportunities across the board. We wanted to find new affordable ways to mass produce relevant content and think beyond the 30-second commercial. We do, television is our primary tactic across all the different brands, and it will continue to be for the foreseeable future, but we want to continue to create hedges against what's going on in the TV landscape. And then lastly, drive D2C and e-commerce growth. So right now, we have a goal of having 10% of our sales D2C to e-commerce within a period of the next few years. So that's something that is of significant importance. So these are delivered down to us and use this then to go into the market and find those partners to the previous slide. So the solution was through one of our VC partners, Lair Ventures in New York. They connected us to Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed at the time was launching a new platform called Tasty. Has anybody used Tasty or seen the recipe content? They had scale and short-form recipe video content. We have a big division of our company, which is kitchen appliances, and so there was a natural synergy and complementary nature there. So from the first exclusive partnership to organically feature our brands in Tasty videos, the platform had not been monetized yet, so this was something that was new for Tasty as well. It was sort of we were growing as they were growing, and we wanted to tap into them in their early stage. So we completed the internal checklist, and this again is a fairly disciplined sort of action that we go through. But we looked at traction, and we clearly saw it was there. So we saw that they were up to 7 billion views. They are 200 million shares on Facebook alone. This is just Tasty. This is not Buzzfeed, which is even larger. They were also the #1 video content publisher on Facebook, with each video seeing on average 10 million views. So people were clearly absorbing a lot of this this recipe content. We like the investment thesis behind the company. The $200 million that NBC put into the organization gave us a validation that a major media company sees this as a potential acquisition target, possibly for them. So we obviously saw the strategic growth equity that was there. We got approval from the board. We got insight from the board to make sure that they were on board as well. The business unit needs, so we saw again that it aligned with our need to create more viral, short, and relevant content. We wanted to create more content for sharing as well. And then D2C e-commerce, it obviously gave us an engaging audience, that endorsement, and the ability to create a call to action. So this is just one of the first test videos that we rolled out in January and February. We did 2 videos featuring our crockpot slow cooker. And right off that, we had 752,000 shares, 324,000 likes, 37 million views of these 2 videos, 300% sales lift at one of our key customers, and 100,000 visits to our Amazon page. So the stats here were way beyond our expectations, something new that we tried. And again, I think tying the D2C e-commerce piece to it was really crucial here. So people wanted to buy this video. They wanted to buy the products in these videos. They were asking about it in the comments. So it was a great opportunity for us to align with them. And we just launched a video Thursday for our new 7-minute grill product we launched. And within 30 minutes, it received over 1 million views in 22 minutes. So again, significant scale, and we wanted to jump on this opportunity. And then, so the call to action pieces really kind of varied. This particular one was on Pinterest. There was a call to action as well that was on the Buzzfeed site. So consumers could have an opportunity to buy the product there at the bottom after watching this sort of endorsement from the Tasty team. And let's go ahead and show the video if we can. We're going to link out to it. So who's ready for lunch? Yeah, so that was the, so again, they had this sort of, criteria of how they're obviously able to make those videos. It was very short. It was designed for millennials. It utilized our product, our crockpot product, which we've been focused a lot on having to get more millennials using our slow cookers across the board. And so being able to show there's all these new type of recipes that we could do was something that was very, very beneficial for the brand. So lastly, so some challenges and learnings that we got from the overall sort of partnership with them. First was, it took a lot of effort internally to get a lot of our brands comfortable and marketers comfortable with working with a startup, working with a nascent, relatively unknown company. Getting them to really understand that this company has a product that is valuable for us. Another piece of it was getting our marketers and business BUs and senior management away from traditional metrics. So we had to get them away from looking at GRPs and a lot of the media, the metrics that we use on our traditional media, and looking more at views and shares, and even obviously the D2C metrics were incredible here in our test. The third piece, which I think was the biggest learning for us, was relinquishing creative control. We actually just came from their offices a few days ago here in LA. And you walk in there, and it's like they're in college. I mean, they're literally all standing around there, and they've got this makeshift kitchen set up, and they're filming this video content. And you try to tell them, and we, and our biggest thing was our marketers were saying, well, we want to show more of the product like this, or we want to do it more like this. And we ultimately had to get them away from, our internal team away from sort of art directing the entire process, because this team clearly understood what they were doing if they're getting this kind of scale. But again, getting traditional blue chip marketers away from relinquishing that creative control was a big learning for us. Another point here is set realistic expectations of performance. We saw solid performance so far on across the board, but again, we want to be realistic. We were very conservative in what we originally presented to the business units about how we were going to set up the campaign. Understand there will be setbacks and growing pains are normal. Again, we had multiple meetings with the teams here. The companies knew at monetizing their platform, so we were sitting there in a lot of discussions where they said, you really can't do this, but you might be able to do this instead. So there was a constant, sort of back and forth that was going on there. And we realized that the growing pains are normal. And we're going to continue the partnership. And I think what's really interesting for us is that they're rolling out new verticals as well. So DIY, which is a big, we have a bunch of tool brands under the Newell businesses that play in the DIY platform. We have smoke detectors and things like that. So we're going to really interested in what they're doing there and all the different verticals that they're rolling out too, as well as international scale they're seeing right now, especially in the recipe content. So that is the tasty overview. If there's any questions, this is my contact information, and I will see everybody a little bit later today as well for the panel. And thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
15 minutes.
Take that. Nice. You can get that done there.